everyone, it's me Bo, back again on the Film Scene Investigation channel. I hope everyone out there is doing good. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the classic action movie Die Hard. Before we get into this review, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, Die Hard from 1988 was directed by the talented John McTiernan and starred a young Bruce Willis in the lead role. Now, as we're all aware, this movie was a huge success at the box office and no doubt made a significant impact on pop culture. From the amazing action sequences to the funny one-liners, Die Hard remains universally loved among moviegoers. Now, my first introduction to the Die Hard franchise came when I was about 8 years old and I played the PS1 game, the Die Hard Trilogy, for the first time. I was blown away by it and totally fell in love with the game without knowing anything about the actual films themselves. My cousin would later fill me in on how each singular game represented one of the three movies. So all I knew for a long time was that the first movie involved a skyscraper, the second involved an airport, and the third involved a New York taxicab. Now, I'll admit, I'm not a huge gamer. I'm way more into films and music, as you may have guessed, but when it came to the Die Hard trilogy, I really did spend many hours trying to complete it. I never did actually complete it, but still got a lot of fond memories of playing the game. It was only when I was like 14 or 15 did I finally get to see a Die Hard movie. Because I was so young at the time, I couldn't just go down to Blockbuster and rent it out. So my only hope really was for the films to be aired on TV. And because of this, I actually ended up viewing the Die Hard movies backwards in reverse order. So the first Die Hard that I saw was Die Hard with a Vengeance, the third installment in the franchise. I love the movie, I still love the movie, and I think it's the best Die Hard sequel. A few years after that, I saw Die Hard 2, Die Harder, when it was on TV. Not my favourite sequel, but still a solid action movie. And finally, I saw the original Die Hard from 1988 when a friend lent me the DVD. So, in terms of the plot, the movie followed the character John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, who travelled to Los Angeles to reunite with his wife after a difficult separation. We saw McClane attend a Christmas party at the Nakatomi Plaza where his wife worked. But before they could reconcile their differences, things turned ugly when a group of career criminals showed up and took everyone hostage. The group, who were led by the German Hans Gruber, showed up ready to steal bearer bonds from the building's vault. The guests were screaming, they were panicking, and in the midst of the chaos, Detective John McClane was able to slip away up a stairwell. The movie then turned into this cat and mouse game between McClane and the criminals. The group wanted the bearer bonds at all costs. I mean, there was no going back for them, and so they decided to take on McClane firsthand, searching the building, trying to find him. Now, when it comes to Die Hard, nobody can deny just how amazing the various action sequences were. From the rooftop shootout to the C4 explosion down the elevator shaft. I mean, this was a extremely well-made production and totally revitalized the action movie genre. One of my favorite moments in the movie came when McClane got the fire hose and wrapped it round his waist like a rope. I must say, I'm not a big fan of heights, so seeing McClane actually do that was, quite difficult to watch. For sure, McClane had a lot more faith in that fire hose than I would have. And talking of heights, there was also that scene where McClane wedged his machine gun in the air vent as he lowered himself down the ventilator shaft. McClane, who had been surrounded by a group of men, had no other choice but to climb down. All of a sudden, the strap broke, leaving McClane to fall down the shaft in another nail-biting moment in the film. It was a very well-directed sequence and kind of acted like a jump scare of sorts. Not only did McClane have to deal with Gruber's henchmen, but he also had to battle against the conditions within the building. It was almost like the Nakatomi Plaza acted like a character within the story rather than just a location. But as I praised the film for its quality action sequences, I must stress that Die Hard is definitely more than just an action film. The film had something to say. It definitely had a message for its audience. So by looking at the narrative and seeing how the characters evolved throughout the story, it's clear that Die Hard was actually a criticism of the corporate world in American society. All of this centered around the character Holly McClane, who was played by actress Bonnie Bedlier. The film began with Holly, who was a key figure in the Nakatomi Corporation, now separated from her husband due to her career decisions. Holly was chasing the dream of becoming this high-flying businesswoman, which obviously clashed with the normal traditions of family life. She was gifted a Rolex watch from one of her colleagues as a thank you for her hard work. The Nakatomi Corporation was doing some great business, and Holly was a key part of that success. But you have to understand that the Rolex watch was more than just some throwaway product placement. In actuality, it was a symbolic representation of the corporate world Holly had chosen to work in. She had attached herself to this world of corporations and corporate greed and was neglecting her family. And let's not forget that Rolex watches are indeed a luxury item. They're a statement for wealth and prosperity, something that John McClane likely couldn't afford. Holly had chosen this new life over her family, and she was being rewarded for it. Then, fast forward to the final showdown between McClane and Gruber, and the Rolex watch comes back into focus. So Gruber was shot and fell through a glass panel, but before he could fall to his death, he grabbed hold of Holly's Rolex in a bid to bring her down with him. But as we know, McClane saved the day by unclasping the Rolex watch and freeing Holly. You have to understand that McClane wasn't just physically freeing his wife from Gruber, he was metaphorically freeing his wife from the corporate world she had been working in. Just look at Holly's priorities from the start and at the end of the film. She wanted to be with her kids and her husband. She didn't even care about her job. McClane didn't just save the day, but the traditional family unit had been restored, and it was great to see. Over the years, various media outlets have pushed this idea that women should choose careers over starting families. While women should absolutely have the choice in what they want to do with their lives, I don't feel that media institutions should push such detrimental lifestyle choices onto women that go against the nuclear family model. Luckily, though, a lot of those toxic media institutions are on their knees and they no longer hold the importance they once had. When it comes to performances, I thought Bruce Willis was a major highlight for the film. With all of the praise and credit that Bruce Willis has received over the years, I think it's totally deserved. It was a very commanding role playing John McClane, and Willis nailed the part perfectly. From his natural charismatic charm to his tough guy sensibilities, the John McClane character became an iconic figure in the action movie genre. So, getting into Willis's mindset, he knew that this was his big opportunity and that he couldn't fail. So, he worked extremely hard in making the film the success it later became. The only downside to all of this was that Bruce Willis's performance as John McClane in the subsequent sequels definitely declined in quality, especially the later films, Die Hard 4 and 5, which, in my eyes, should never have been made. The English actor Alan Rickman also was rather brilliant in his role as the villain Hans Gruber. He was the perfect counterpart for McClane, a smartly dressed man, well educated and ruthless. I really like the fact that Gruber never lost his cool. He was always kind of in control, even when McClane was spoiling his plans. When the police and FBI eventually showed up outside the tower, Gruber skillfully manipulated them all into believing that the siege was some sort of political communist movement. He totally fooled them, and it was great to see. Rickman, of course, went on to have a stellar career in the industry before passing away in 2016. While the actor has had many memorable roles, for me, his performance as Hans Gruber is my favourite. Now, this movie spawned the phrase "Yippee-ki-yay," which of course was John McClane's catchphrase that he used throughout the series. And while it's a good line for McClane to say, I've always thought that Hans Gruber's "Yippee-ki-yay" was far superior. At the end of the movie, Gruber said the line to McClane before attempting to shoot him, and yeah, it was the perfect delivery. It went something like, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker." Yeah, the best yippee-ki-yay in a series for me. And it was just a shame that Gruber's brother didn't say it in the sequel, Die Hard with a Vengeance. And when I think about it, the whole film consisted of a brilliant ensemble cast of actors. From Paul Gleason to Robert Davi, all of the actors brought their A-game to the project, which no doubt strengthened the film's overall quality. Massive praise to the casting director Jackie Birch for her amazing contributions to the film. And so dislikes for Die Hard from 1988. My biggest dislike for the film would have to be the killing of the henchman Kyle. So in the final moments, just when you thought the danger had ended, Kyle appeared with a machine gun ready to shoot McClane. But before Kyle could execute McClane in front of everyone, he was shot by Sergeant Powell, who was played by actor Reggie VelJohnson. It was a dramatic moment for sure, seeing Powell come to the rescue, but I just didn't think it was needed. It was a little too on the nose for me, everyone just standing around as Carl pointed the machine gun. And, where did he come from anyway? I thought he was dead when he got hung up by McClane earlier. So, yeah, I just thought the whole thing was a little too much. Honestly, it just wasn't needed, and I wish they had removed that whole scene from the final cut. And so, ratings for Die Hard from 1988. I'm going to be rating this movie a strong 8 out of 10. Die Hard, without a doubt, is one of the very best action movies American cinema has ever produced. It paved the way for the action movies from the 90's, and it was considered the greatest action film before Terminator 2 was released in 1991. Like I mentioned earlier, the movie deserved all the hype and success it received. Sometimes I've come across popular movies that I thought have been awful, but not the case with Die Hard. Bruce Willis's strong performance as the down-to-earth cop who gets caught up in this crazy hostage situation made for some gripping drama. And while the stunt work and spectacular pyrotechnics were very impressive, it never overshadowed the narrative. Everything served its purpose.